Welcome to the Business Advice Podcast, where we discuss marketing, money, and other matters with businessmen around Australia.
Yeah, cool. All right, so welcome, Josh. Welcome back.
Thank you, Adam. Great to be here again.
Um, so a lot of people would have seen the first episode on Logmaster, which is only like not even a year ago. Um, so today is a recap because we've been talking a lot the last few weeks, and so much has happened. It's quite incredible. So very timely to do a recap at this point and hear where you're at with it. We should do um, what is Logmaster. Let's go back to that and just do a brief summary for those who are seeing this for
Okay.
the first time.
All right. I'll do the what is Logmaster bit. Okay. So when you drive a truck that weighs more than 12 tons in Australia and you drive it more than 100 kilometers away from your base, you need to fill in one of these filthy things. So this is a driver logbook issued by the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator. And when a driver is doing this kind of work, they need to go through and fill this page out every day. And it will show work and rest periods, locations, odometers, vehicle registrations, and so on. So
Okay.
what happens when a heavy vehicle driver gets pulled over on the side of the road or they go through a weighbridge, they're asked to show their logbook. Um, and then that roadside official will go through that logbook and ensure the driver hasn't breached any of the rules in terms of his work and rest records. The first 20 pages of that logbook are the rules. So the rules are quite complex. They've got all sorts of different counting points, and there's night rests and 24-hour rests and maximum total work time in 14 days and 28 days. And if I was a truck driver, I would not want to be doing those sorts of calculations while I'm driving a heavy vehicle. Okay. So Logmaster is an electronic replacement of that paper diary for the driver. So rather than use that paper diary, they open up their app and their app keeps them in check. It gives them forward planned alerts, so it'll tell them an hour before they need to have their break. They'll get audio and visual alerts on their app, and it's designed to help the driver not to make a mistake that's going to end him up in court or dead broke after a massive fine from a roadside official. So that's the core of what Logmaster is for the driver. Uh, After we went about creating the product and releasing it and giving value to the drivers, we created a range of other modules to the platform, which are for the transport operator, so the trucking company. For them, now the transport operator doesn't get pulled over on the side of the road, but what they do have to do is audits. So when they get audited, they need to show compliance. They need to show that they're record keeping things properly, that they're investigating, reporting, recording, all of that sort of thing. And Logmaster does all of that work for the transport operator. Other things like pre-start checks, where the driver has to go around and check out the vehicle and sign off that it's all safe to use. Checks where the driver has to declare that he's free from drugs and alcohol, he's had plenty of sleep, and he's good to go. It does all of those checks as well for the company. And then it goes a little further, and we can do, payroll reporting, and we can do mass declarations and mass compliance for mass audits as well. So there's 4 products in the suite at the moment, but really to simplify it, it automates and simplifies the compliance and reporting process for transport.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Earlier this year, I had a friend who was driving back to the Sunshine Coast, and he felt it was a bit of light rain. He felt a tap. Looked behind him. He was towing a trailer, and a
Mm.
truck had sort of tapped his trailer, and
Mm.
he started shifting. Anyway, it was a total. ended up being a total collision, total write-off. He was nearly killed. The trailer was rolled. He was
Wow.
crushed into the barrier, and he jumped out. The truck was pretty mangled, and a second truck crashed into the truck that crashed into him. He went up, and the guy was obviously intoxicated. The police later confirmed that he was extremely intoxicated. And
Wow.
I was thinking about it this morning. Like, there's the compliance need, the paperwork, and helping truck drivers um, to just do the paperwork and to comply with
Mm,
government regulations. But I
mm,
just like I had a friend who was nearly deceased from a situation where a truck driver was pushed to, again, they're under a lot of pressure to drive, to work extremely long hours and to push themselves to the extent of their capacity. And
mm,
that's actually why the regulations exist, to
mm,
make it safer for truck drivers and to make it safer for people who are driving alongside truck drivers. So there's kind of that real
mm,
um, benefit. And I was thinking, well, Logmaster will actually, you know, will potentially has saved lives through
mm.
better management of our human faculties. Yeah, like it
Yeah.
is. Have you got any data on that to date? Like,
It's interesting, because even when you push the limits of even what is legal, like for a normal human being, you think, wow. I spoke to a driver yesterday, and he called to just double check that what Logmaster was telling him was correct, and he wanted to understand why. And I said, okay, have a look at this tab on your app, and it was the 14-day rule, and he'd driven 143 hours in 14 days. Okay. And he hadn't quite hit the limit because you can drive a few more hours after that, but he was wondering why he needed to have a 16 and a half hour rest period after a few hours. And I had to take him to school and explain, this stuff. And he's like, that explains why I'm feeling a bit weary. I've been really putting in the hours. I'm like, I can tell you exactly how many hours you've been putting in. In 14 days, you've done 143 hours behind the wheel. So, okay. So I need to take that rest? Yes, you need to take that rest.
yeah,
So, like, that's sure, their job is driving, but they're still humans. They're not, robots. You get fatigued, you get tired, and then you throw on the fact that you're pushing 40 tons or 100 tons down a highway at 100 Ks. Like, it's a recipe for disaster if you don't take it really seriously.
yeah,
And the other interesting thing is, like, we knew when we bought Logmaster out, it was going to expose two things: drivers that were over driving on purpose, and
mhm,
companies that were dishing out rosters and schedules that were either pushing it or exceeding the limits. One of those two
yep,
things, and we see it all the time.
yeah, yeah. Interesting.
Mm, mm.
Oh, that's awesome. It was only something I sort of connected those points together. I mean, obviously, we see the business side of the benefits and the compliance side of the benefits, but there's a real human element to this as
Yeah,
well that
yeah, yeah.
it's
Sa
become.
Safety, and also, no one likes getting pulled over by the law, right? So you get pulled over, it could be just a license check or a breathalyzer or something. If you get pulled over as a truck driver, you're generally off to court. And we're talking thousands of dollars of fines, points on the license, on your record, and your job. You need to have that license to be able to drive a truck. So it's also about, you know, giving the drivers something that's going to keep them out of trouble. And I always say to them, hey, if in doubt, listen to the computer, listen to the breach engine that we built for you to keep you safe. Don't question it, do what it says, because it's designed there to make sure you don't have a bad day and go to court and lose all your cash.
Yeah,
Because those fines are real expensive, and day in court, no one wants that. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's immense. It's valuable to the on every level. It's win win win. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I love it. So, I mean, earlier this year, it had an approximate valuation of like 20 million. What
yeah.
I don't know how much we can say at the moment, but do we have you got a current valuation like as of what
Yeah.
how it progressed?
It's actually 25 million. So
Oh, of
the
course. Yeah.
the last investment that came in was at a $25 million valuation.
Wild, wild. And do we have? Is there an update, or it's not an official one, or?
So we're currently in the middle of doing a raise, which is a bridge to Series A raise. So
Hmm.
it's not a, it's not a $10 million raise. It's only a $1.5 million raise, and
Hmm.
it's a bridge to Series A. I'm sorry, my cat. I just need to come on, get up there. You're gonna disrupt the podcast. Come on. There you go. She's friends with the cat next door, and they talk through the window. It's really cute. Um, Okay, yeah, so it's a bridge to Series A. So we'll do a Series A when we're live in North America, Brazil, Malaysia, and probably UK. And that'll be like a proper Series A, maybe 10 to 15 million, and it'll be about global expansion into every country. But what we're raising now is 1.5 to add an extra in-demand module to what we're offering at the moment and get
Sure.
the product internationalized for North America, Malaysia, and Brazil. So yeah, we're raising 1.5 mil at the moment.
Okay, okay. And back here in Australia for now. So the next, my understanding, and I'm not sure how much is speculation here, but in the future, at some point,
Mhm.
um, Queensland state government and governments like Australia federally and around all over Australia will most likely move to a paperless system at some point. Now we may not know exactly when that is, but
Mhm.
there there might be rumors that it could be as soon as a year, but it could be 10 years.
Mhm.
If that happens, how's that going to impact Logmaster?
Well, I mean, it's going to be fantastic. So we're i- in this space that we occupy, we are the high value commercial offering. So we sell through channel partners, of which we've got the majority of transport technology businesses on selling and promoting our product. We're
Mhm.
the market leader in our field, so we've got more users than anyone else. We're the
And
company that they
approximately
talk
what?
about in the trucks and
Yep. And approximately what percentage of the market do you have at the moment?
so at the moment, I would say somewhere between 10 and 15% of
Okay.
the total trucking market.
Okay.
So remember, the electronic work diary and compliance is only a new thing. So it's not everyone on it yet. So uh, I would still sort of class it as early adopters getting on board now.
Okay. Yep.
So
10%.
um, yeah. So we have 10 we have 10 competitors who are compliant electronic work diary providers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we have over 5,000 daily active users,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about that's more than the majority of competitors combined. So it seems like the competitors aren't really trying. Sorry if any of you guys are listening, but come on, up your game. Like, you know. So what I'm trying to get at is we are the clear market leader.
Yep.
Um, we're the ones that come up when you talk about a really good quality product, a commercial grade product that not just benefits the driver but offers value proposition for the business users as well.
Yes. Yep.
So if you think of some of the largest brands in trucking and transport in Australia and you go and have a talk to them, those are the sort of brands that use our product, you know. Um, so in getting back to your question, what happens when the mandate comes? Well, what will generally happen is the regulator will announce it. It'll
Mm-hmm.
be hey, we're moving away from paper. You've got until this time to jump on an electronic work diary that's certified. Here's your list. We're in that list. And generally, what happens in transport, the people talk. They talk to each other. So, it'll be oh, who do you use? Who do you recommend? Who recommends which one the highest? Who's got the best reviews? Let's go with them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you look at that, the fact that we have all of those partners, all of those big name transport companies, the most drivers, market leader, a lot of that the industry will drop into our bucket by default and by reputation, which is
Okay.
great because it means
Yes.
cash.
And are you allowed to name drop any existing clients?
I really want to, but I probably shouldn't. It's probably not
Yeah,
professional,
sure,
but
sure.
there is a very good chance that you can think of you think of a big name in trucking and transport. You look at the trucks on the road, and we've got either we're about to sign them or they're already signed with us, sort of thing,
Okay, okay,
or a portion of their fleet is signed with us. So yeah, big companies do use Logmaster for their compliance.
okay, okay. And so there's 5,000, a little over 5,000 currently, and I think last
Hmm.
time we were speaking, it was like 4,000. So that's like what,
Yeah.
25% increase in less than a
Mm,
year. But
mm,
we're talking, there's something like 500,000 trucks on the road. So
yeah.
potentially in a few years, a, a lot of them
I'll,
are using Logmaster.
I'll throw another thing in there. So at the moment, the regulation starts at 12 tons in weight for the vehicle and
Ah,
100 k's distance.
uh huh.
They're talking about reducing that 12 tons down to 4.5 tons
Ah,
and then potentially getting rid of the 100k minimum.
oh,
So that would increase our total addressable market by a lot. So currently it's 12 tons and 100 k's minimum. They
yes.
drop it down to 4.5 tons and 0 k's minimum. It means
Hmm.
everyone who's driving, even anything as big as a moving truck, like a
Hmm.
small moving truck, is going to need a certified diary. And you mix all of that with them dropping the paper diary out, and it's a lot of potential users there in the market.
And that might be a million vehicles around
Yeah,
Australia.
yeah,
Wow. Now, so that's just Australia.
yeah.
But you're going to dominate the entire globe. Is this true? Like,
The plan from the beginning was to be the global leader in transport compliance technology. So there is not really that, and we think we're poised pretty well to do it. So, I mean, New Zealand, we've got probably 20k worth of dev left to go to push out into New Zealand. And New Zealand's really interesting because in New Zealand, they've already mandated the use of this sort of technology, and it doesn't just apply to trucks. It also applies to taxis, rideshare, courier drivers, all of that sort of stuff. So launching into New Zealand will be interesting because we'll be talking to taxi drivers, Uber drivers. They'll be using the product as well. Um,
ah,
and then, of course, the idea is to go Brazil, Malaysia, North America as a first overseas release
right.
because uh, Brazil is definitely in need of like a system where they can go paperless. So get rid of paper compliance over there, move to digital and that sort of stuff. And so there's lots of opportunity there and in Malaysia as well. And from there, it's just a case of pick a country, make the tweaks to the product, release on the market, gain the partners, and just copy paste what we did here, really.
Okay. Oh
Yeah,
my goodness. So, and that's part of this next round of funding is to expand so that you can
yeah,
roll out and cut and
yeah.
paste overseas.
Hmm.
And so Brazil, US, Malaysia.
Malaysia. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
fantastic. But obviously, New Zealand is next because no language barrier.
We've
Um,
already built everything for New Zealand. We've just been sidetracked. We've got to put a little bit of time into just polishing it and releasing it and getting it up and running in New Zealand. Yeah,
brilliant, brilliant.
yeah.
All right. So, what what difficulties have you faced? Can you give examples of challenge? I mean, obviously there would be just many things,
Hmm.
but there's got to be technical issues and what?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, any tech company, you're going to have bugs, right? Every
Mhm,
now and then you might release an app update that has a bug. And for us, it's about how quick can we hear about it and how quick can we fix it and push a release.
mhm,
So that's an example of a challenge. We've been pretty good at it, after so many versions. So we're on version 1.3.19 right now. So, we're talking a lot of releases since 2022 to improve the product, right? Um, so yeah, bugs are always a thing, but the customers are great, the users are great. They just call and go, "Hey, I've got a problem. Can you help me?" And try and help them. And if there's a bug, I've got my engineering team to go squash the bug, fix it, push the release, and it's fixed. So um, for a
I
tech company, it should be that easy to fix.
sure, sure, but you're
Yeah.
actually like. how many truck drivers are you personally talking to in a month?
Well, a lot. So the way the company is structured, I do a lot of the front of house stuff. I want to talk to everyone who hasn't got Logmaster already, and then my business partner and the support team, they will talk to all the existing users.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we always talk to truck drivers. I've got probably 2 or 3 thousand truck drivers' names and phone numbers saved in my phone, so that when they call, I can, "G'day, Barry," So they're all saved in there because we want to give that personal, service, right?
Yep.
But I would talk to, I don't know, what, those
Oh,
300, 400
no.
truck
Oh, yeah.
drivers in a month. Yeah, they call all the time, and when a lead comes through their website, I like to call every now and then, just call one up and have a chat to them. So it helps us stay connected to what they're going through, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. You shared a story. I don't know if you can dig into an example of this, but where a user, a truck driver user, was frustrated or wanted additional functionality or a button or some sort of thing.
Mm.
And I remember you telling me this.
Yeah.
Can you give an example of
Okay. So
where
yeah, I
that
remember
happened?
what it was.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
That story that I told you was actually a record keeper, so an admin at a transport company. Well, I was talking him through showing one thing, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so shit at 24-hour time. Like, it's just, I feel like a child. I have to sit there and count on my fingers, and it's such a big part of my job." And I was jokingly, I said, "Oh, would you like me to put a button in there to do 12-hour time for you?" And he's like, "Would you really?" I'm like, "Would it mean a lot to you if I did?" He's like, "It would change my life." I'm like, "Okay, I'll do it." And I think it took maybe to get it in and get it scheduled, it took maybe a week for me to get it in. It took an engineer maybe an hour to do it. And I called him up and he's like, "Oh my God, you did it. You just made my job so much easier." And then a bunch of other record keepers said, "I love that you've got a 24 and 12-hour switch on your platform. It's great." Like that's an example of, like, you listen to one person, if it's going to be really impactful for them, surely it's going to be impactful for the thousands of other people using it. And sure enough, it was.
Yeah, that's gold. I
Yeah.
love it. Like, I mean, like you've kind of got like these truck drivers out there. I mean, there's some guys working for big companies, and it's kind of it's a 9 to 5er. But
Mm,
then my understanding of the truckies that I know, it's not a 9 to 5 job. Like if you're driving to
mm.
across the Nullarbor, you don't, it's
Yeah.
it's a slog.
It absolutely is a slog. And like, if you're a long hauler, an interstate truck driver, you're spending your days and your nights in that truck. You drive, a legal amount of time. You have to spend 7 hours resting, right? So there's a rule 12 in 24. You can't exceed 12 hours in 24, and you got to have a 7 hour night rest. So you might drive all day. You're in that truck for 7 hours in the bunk, or you're at a hotel for 7 hours on the road away from your family, and you got to get up and do it all again. So, you know, like the opposite of a 9 to 5. It's like
Yep.
you're in it for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And what I love is that it's genuinely supporting them, like with not only with their compliance, but it's it's really considering their safety and well being as a human.
Hmm.
Because without trucks, Australia's what's the slogan? Australia's
Australia stops. Without trucks,
yeah,
Australia stops. Yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting. I love listening to what they say about it, and I feel like we've got so many advocates and so many fans. Like, e- every second lead that comes through the website, because we ask everyone how to hear about Logmaster, and like every second lead they say, "My mate recommended it." And that's like the biggest compliment to us. Like, it's
Hmm.
one thing to produce a product and sell it to someone and they buy it and they use it. It's another thing to do that and then have them so happy with it that they're telling all their friends to get it because it's so good. It's like that's a really good, really cool thing. And I particularly like it when a truck driver says, "I don't even have to think or worry about, well, time anymore. All I do is listen to my app and I don't breach and I don't worry and I feel confident when I go through those checks." And that's the other big thing. Like, we're selling confidence here. It's not just technology. You sell confidence in what you do. And it's like, Yeah,
Mm,
no one whinges about the price when you're buying confidence. Yeah, it's good.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Off on a
and
tangent there. What was the question?
no, well, yeah, like, well, it's just caring about the end user, like, and
Yeah.
obviously I do because they're the ones referring it, and there's
Mm,
obviously like love in the transaction. It's not just I've created a SaaS and
yeah.
like it's you're actually talking to the end user, like
Mm,
it's very Elon Musk, like it's not just some tech idea and you're just sitting in a boardroom with
yeah.
reports at the end of the month. You're talking to the bloke in the bloody truck.
What's
Um,
what's really interesting is, so a truck driver themselves can buy it, buy the diary. The
mhm,
transport business and that truck driver's boss can buy it. So it's like, yes, we have to understand it from the employer and the employee's perspective, and we've got to give both
mhm,
of those subsets of people value so that they can,
mhm.
you know, really enjoy it. So
Yep.
one moment I'm talking to the driver who's pulled over and he's got a question. The next minute I'm talking to his boss. The next minute I might be talking to a compliance person who's looking at a report and has a question. So we deal with all of these different subsets of individuals within the transport industry, and it makes us feel really connected to it, because we speak to such a range of different entities within the chain of responsibility. It's a really cool thing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep. Okay, so moving forward into the future, we've all seen. Well, a lot of us would have seen. The Tesla trucks rolling out. We've got
yeah,
battery powered trucks in the future.
mm,
Well, they're already starting to roll out.
yeah,
Um,
they're awesome.
is Logmaster going to vanish and disappear the day trucks arrive, and how those things are going to intersect?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, when electric trucks come out, that's going to be fantastic. You're still going to have a driver driving them. They're
Yep.
still going to get fatigued driving them. All of that sort of thing is still there. So it's no
Hmm.
change whether you're driving a petrol powered truck or an electric truck. The change will come down the track when we eventually get to driverless vehicles. Okay. And then it'll be less about driver fatigue because you won't have a driver in them, and more about battery management. So
Okay.
understanding where you need to stop, what you need to do, when it needs to be charged, all of that sort of stuff. It's about managing the performance of the battery rather than the human at that point.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what is there other vital data? I mean, obviously, there's time is a big factor, but are there other data points that are valuable that it collates and presents in a report? Or
Certainly. Well, like if you think about the vehicles themselves as well. So if a vehicle has a pre-start check done and there's a broken item on the truck, how quickly can that data be reported to the warehouse person who's got to order the part in? So if you think about paper processes at the moment, say a driver is, 300 kilometers away from their base, they do a pre-start check, they notice that the windscreen's got a crack in it. That truck might not be back to the admin team and the depot for another 5 days. Crack's going to get worse, obviously. When the truck gets back there, they then have to go order a new windscreen, right? And so on and so forth. So it takes a lot of time to do that. On Logmaster, the moment that um, you know driver reports that crack, the warehouse person can get that instantly. So they can go and order that windscreen. So the windscreen's there before the truck even gets back, which which lowers the downtime that truck has to sit there in the workshop because the part's already
Mhm.
there. They already know they got to do the job. That windscreen can be changed and that truck can be back on the road making the owner money straight away. So you take that sort of thing and, like, oh, I can't have my cat sitting there doing that on a podcast. Francie.
uh,
Um, I just noticed her in that. Um, yeah, so taking um, processes in compliance from retrospective, where you got to wait for them to physically come in and hand in paperwork, and bringing that into real time makes such a big difference because it means, like, the admin can even get an alert 10 minutes before a driver breaches. So if they've dropped their phone and they're just not thinking about it and they can't hear the alert or something, they're their boss can call them or get them on the CB and go, do you know you're about to breach in 10 minutes if you don't stop? And they go, oh, thank you. You just saved me a breach and a fine. I'll pull over. And you just can't do that with paper. It's
Yep.
impossible to do with paper. You need to have a dedicated system to get real time, yeah, actions
Yep.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's just where like the future we're here. Like this is there's some negatives to that. Like I mean, there's some very obvious negatives to people knowing where you are and what you're doing all the time.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
but the thing is, it is a safety issue, and like, I've seen the worst of it. Um, so it
Can
is.
I quickly touch on that? Just because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
mentioned something about being watched all the time. And if I bring that back to truckies, a lot of time the truckies are going to have GPS tracking in their truck.
yep.
Okay, so they're going to have telematics, which is feeding back to their owners, um, fuel usage, harsh braking, harsh corner, all of that sort of telemetry
Mhm.
data on the vehicle. Logmaster doesn't actually track the driver at all.
Ah,
All it does is when they're doing a work or arrest event, it pings the GPS and types in the suburb for them, so they don't have to do that. The reason we did that is because you can actually get a fine if you spell a suburb wrong on that paper book. So if
right.
you're a bad speller and someone says, "Oh, you're in, you know, Gundawindi," and you stuff it up bad enough so that the roadside official can't understand it, you can get a fine for that. So
Yeah,
that's why we do that. So I just wanted to throw that in there that we don't do the monitoring Big Brother
yeah.
tracking thing on the users.
Man, yeah, and I've seen some apps like in the US, like where it's even tracking like if you blink or yawn, it'll send a
Yeah,
warning. Just
they got
creepy
that here
level.
as well. And
Oh,
vibrating seats as well. So if the driver looks like he's feeling sleepy, the seat will vibrate. All of
that's
that stuff is
yeah.
here.
I but what I love about Logmaster, it's got the end user first and foremost, like their safety and well being. I mean, the
Mm,
thing is, like the government, like everywhere you look, you've got traffic cameras, you got cameras looking down to see if you're on your phone. Like
yeah.
that's already there,
It's a
but
lot of surveillance.
we need technology to advocate for us so that we can make decisions that will reduce the likelihood of being fined and
Yeah,
seeing issues. And that's what Logmaster
yeah.
does. Um,
The regulators got those sort of surveillance products as well out there. So how you got a speed camera, right? A normal speed camera, it's set up. You go through, you're speeding, it'll flash, and you're done.
mhm.
So they've got heavy vehicle monitoring cameras out there that do point to point, so distance, speed. They've also got number plate recognition, and they're pinpointing the locations of these heavy vehicles so that they can go and check through the data and make sure that these drivers aren't exceeding the fatigue laws.
Oh,
So it's not just a case of they can get pulled over by a roadside official or an NHVR officer. They've got millions of dollars worth of this surveillance tech out there on our roads, checking on truck drivers, and
yeah.
yeah,
And this is technology which advocates with the truck driver in mind and the truck driver's company, but first and foremost,
yeah,
it's the
yeah.
user. Yeah.
Really, it's about exp- uh, having a piece of tech keep the driver in check, make sure that they know that they're about to stuff up, or they know they're about to need a break, or they're about to have a breach, or hey, if you press this button now and go into rest, you're going to waste this amount of time. It's like prompting the driver to do it right and not have to worry about anything. That's really what the tech's for.
Can you give an example of a bloke who narrowly avoided problems thanks to Logmaster? You've probably got thousands, but
Oh yeah,
have you
yeah.
got a good example?
2 weeks ago, I had a guy call up and it was like 11:30 at night, and I decided to pick up the phone. And I was like, "G'day, Bob," or Bruce, or whatever his name was. And I was like, "What are you doing up?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm looking at Logmaster and it's telling me I've got 30 minutes and then I need to have a 24-hour break. Surely that's not right." He's like, "I'm out in the middle of nowhere near a truck." So I'm like, "Okay, let's have a look at it." So I pulled it up and I showed him where to go on his app and I say, "Look how many hours you've done in the last 14 days." And he looked and he's like, "Oh, wow, I knew I've been busy." And I said, he's like, "Well, I can't rest. Like, well, then what you're choosing to do is breach and risk a big old fine, And he's like, oh, right, okay. Anyway, he took his rest, and then when he got home, he called back and he was like, I'm so glad I decided to sleep in the truck because 2 hours down the road there was a blitz and the NHVR were there. And so he would have got a nasty fine if he didn't listen. If he ignored the app or ignored my advice, he would have got a nasty fine and a court date out of that one. So he was pleased he listened, upset that he had to, spend 7 hours in his truck cab doing nothing in the middle of nowhere, but happy that it didn't cost him a day in court and a big fine.
Yeah. Or an accident from
Or an
fatigue.
accident from
Yeah.
fatigue, of course. Yeah, yeah,
You would never, you don't hear about the accidents that you prevented because they never
no,
happened.
that's right. Yeah,
But I mean, that's a great example because it was a financial
yeah,
save.
yeah,
But
yeah. He would have got
thousand,
reamed.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah. It would have been, I think, an $1,800-ish fine. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
and points as well, of course.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yep. Ah, that's so cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I just love it. So let's talk about the sort of the meta level side of it. Like, um, what your journey? You started. Oh
2019.
no! Before that, though, you were
Oh,
doing
yeah.
DD or one of
Ola.
Ola. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, can we recap just your journey
yeah.
leading into that, and then,
Sure.
um, yeah, let's dig into that just briefly.
Okay. So Ola is a rideshare company that will came to Australia to rival Uber, right?
Hmm.
So it's an Indian-based company. They do
Hmm.
really, really well over in India, and they've launched in a few different countries. So they came to Australia to, go up against Uber. And so I was brought on to as an operations manager there to help grow that business. And we grew the business really quickly. My current business partner, Stuart, so my business partner in Logmaster, he was looking after New South Wales region. I was looking after Queensland region.
Hmm.
Um, and there was a real common thread of this problem of driver fatigue. So passengers were coming into our office saying, I had this Ola drive and the driver was clearly tired or he looked tired and was swerving. I felt a bit unsafe. Okay. And so there was a common thread of these problems throughout the country. And, you know, um, see, the problem with rideshare is there's multiple different rideshare platforms that you can drive for. So you can literally do 10 hours on one, do 10 hours on another, 10 hours on the next, and you can drive all the time, right? There's nothing stopping you from getting jobs, right? Which means these drivers, that are trying to make a living, they can work for a long period of time in that car driving people around and they can get tired. And there's no rule set like there is in trucking for passenger transport. Okay.
Right.
So they just say the rule is don't drive when you're fatigued. Not you can drive 5.25 hours and then you require a 15-minute break and then you can drive another 3 hours. Like it's not regimented and stipulated like it is in heavy vehicle national law. So, there's nothing stopping those drivers doing that. So, what we wanted to do was come up with a platform to end the ability for a driver to even get fatigued when they're doing passenger transport or food delivery or any of that sort of thing. And anyway, we came up with the idea and I won't dig all the way into the idea because we fully built it. So when the government goes, yep, here's the rule set, we'll go, boom, here's the solution. You can end, gig economy and passenger transport fatigue right here with this platform. Um, so that's how we started. Um, but because the government doesn't have a rule set in place for that, we pivoted and then we started looking into heavy vehicle. We did a lot of consulting with the industry, spoke to a lot of different transport businesses. I wanted to get their views on their current tech compliance, how they're viewed by tech companies, support levels, what was missing, what were their pain points, all that sort of stuff, and did that for a while. And then we came up with the business plan. We felt like it was really easily validated. Uh, we assembled the team, we built the product, we got it accredited, We got all of the partnerships up and running. We rolled out, and within 14 months, we went from newcomer to market leader.
Wow. Um,
Sounds easy, right? It
no, yeah,
wasn't.
no, it doesn't. Well, I mean, but okay, what interests me? So we've got a few thousand young blokes in business advice who are more or less in a similar situation. They've got aspirations and they're hunting,
Yeah.
um, and so they're interested in what is the pathway. And obviously, so it makes sense the nexus between Ola and Logmaster, considering that what you just explained.
Yeah. Mm.
But I mean, Logmaster probably wouldn't exist if without your experience in that journey. So you would obviously learning how that worked in a similar sort of space. Obviously, there's a lot of overlap between what a rideshare company does and what Logmaster does, but it's Logmaster solves a very specific problem in a niche of that um,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
industry. Was okay. Were there other ventures that you considered that you deselected from pursuing when you investigated?
Um, Not really. No. I mean, there was some other sort of outlying opportunities for software to, provide solutions for little things, but to us, it wasn't, I don't want to say as important. It wasn't as impactful to be able to solve that little thing. We
Mm-hmm.
wanted to solve the big thing. We wanted to be uh, the platform that makes the company compliant and makes it easy for them to stay compliant. That's what we really wanted to do. When we were doing the consulting, it was more about what are the main feelings we need to get out of the customer to keep them really happy with us, or really overjoyed with what they're getting from us so that they would promote and recommend us. And so customer service was the big thing. A lot of transport companies felt like a number to tech companies,
Mm-hmm.
and poor support levels, can never get someone on the phone, don't have a personal relationship with someone at the company, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why customer service and support is pretty much number one to us after having a stable product. That was a big one that stood out. But to answer your question, no, we didn't really get swayed. We picked up a couple of other opportunities for if we ever wanted to do certain things, but it was pretty, it was really uh, obvious to us what we wanted to do throughout that process, and
Mm-hmm.
just doing the discussions with the companies was just literally cementing it down, and giving us more and more confidence that we were onto a winner.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. And so, what does the future look like? Obviously, we know what the future of Logmaster, but the future for Josh Saunders. What are you hoping to do in 5 years and beyond? In
Um,
terms of,
so I have got a passion for startups, right? And the whole idea of thinking of a great idea, turning it into a solution that helps people, and then bringing it to market, and then that whole journey of growing a business from an idea to, you know, something that you do and people know about and have feelings for. I want to go and help other startups get up and get going, because it's really fulfilling thing to do. Really hard, like tricky and a full on roller coaster and a journey, but so fulfilling. Um, like when I'm ready, I want to be the guy that helps me 5 years ago bring the next awesome thing to market. I want to help people get up and running and share what I've learned, and that sort of thing. So the goal is, when I'm ready, and probably try and bring my business partner along for the ride as well. Start a kind of a business that helps people develop ideas, take products to market, grow businesses, grow brands, scale overseas, all that sort of stuff. I don't want to use cliche terms, and I don't really like the idea of mentor, but like a coach, or someone to assist. I don't know what the right word is, but you know, someone to help guys get up and get on the market. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because it's just stuff you don't know.
Yeah.
Like even some of the words, like I go, I think I know what Josh is talking about, but I've heard that word in movies, but I don't know.
Yeah, you learn
uh,
so much of it along the way. Like you almost like you learn because you have to. Like particularly when you get into things like raising capital and business valuations and projections and all that sort of stuff. Like I don't have an MBA. I'm thankful that my business partner has an MBA and he's pretty good. But we yin and yang, right? I know a bunch of stuff that he's not great with, and he knows a bunch of stuff I'm not great with. But even between us, we didn't know everything we needed. We had to engage in help. Lawyers, accountants, CFO, marketing specialists, this person, engineers, like all of those sort of things. And you gain some skills in doing that along the way as well. Because there's so many people out there that want to say, you need this for your business. Here's my invoice. Do I? Or can I just learn how to do that? And you can shove your invoice. That's a skill in itself. Or, people that are interested to help you, uh, but really they just want to rip you off. So there's a lot of people out there like that. So navigating those sort of fields and stuff is a skill as well. But yeah, I think where I'm at now, I think I could help a lot of people getting started or with an idea just to make it easy for them, easier.
yeah. And so you had, I know you've mentioned this, maybe it's not the right word, but you had a mentor as well. Like there was a bloke who had already done it, and he helped you, um, giving you tips and advice along the way. I mean, aside from a lawyer, and
Um, so I've been employed by other people in the past that were, startups, and I've always sort of tried to gain as much knowledge and insights from those blokes as possible.
Mhm.
Um, and even at the same time as I started Logmaster, I had a few friends who were starting businesses in different industries and that sort of stuff, and just keeping in touch with them and talking to them was really helpful. But it's my passion. Business is my passion. So when I'm not working on the business, I'm listening to business TED Talks and that sort of stuff, or learning
Mhm.
about this or that, or trying to prepare for this whole global domination thing is you know it's fun just in itself. But there's so much info out there that you can soak up like a sponge and get smarter at it. So yeah.
Yep, yep. And but so there seems to be a delineation between good and bad advice, but it's hard to delineate. but so there's is it what are the characteristics of what you choose to, is it past success or um,
It helps to have another person with you, like another person on your team. Um, Stuart and I have sat in many meetings listening to someone, and I'm kind of blunt. Like, if they lose me, I'm just going to start, doing emails in the background, and Stuart's going to go like, "Ah, you've lost Josh. You've got no chance, mate. Just can it and send an email." You know. So it's really nice to have a really capable business partner to be able to help you navigate. Um,
yep.
because someone will throw an idea at me and I'll be like, "Oh, that's a great idea," and I'll go to Stuart and he'll be like, "That is stupid. We're not doing that." And I'll
Yep.
think about it for a minute and go, "Yeah, maybe I got a bit excited," or it's really good to have a good business partner to help you um, identify that sort of stuff.
Yep. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Do you remember? I don't know. It was about 3 months ago. You were speaking at some business conference, and there was a nominal. I don't know. It was a nominal fee. It was extraordinarily cheap, um, and
Yeah.
there was some guy saying that, "Oh, this Josh guy, he just wants to sell courses,"
Oh
or
yeah.
and, and I chimed in. I said, "Josh does not care about." And I was uniquely positioned because I knew your story. Then I could
Yeah.
come in and say, "Nah, mate, he's legit. He's not. He doesn't want your $100 for a course. He's like,
Yeah.
he just genuinely wants to teach to so that other men can get a startup idea and have the tools that they need to do their own startup successfully."
Am I back? Sorry,
Yeah,
I
I can
lost
hear
you
you
when you said you were in a position to genuinely say that I'm not after anyone's money for
trying to
coaching.
sell courses. $100 for a course. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Um,
was interesting. Yeah, that was on Facebook. I think the ad was up and some guy was like, is this a real talk or is he going to try and sell us into a course where he'll tell us the real secrets, you know? But I don't blame him for feeling like that because there's so much of that shit all over Facebook. It's like, oh, look at this guy who's built all these businesses and he's going to give you the secrets and the keys to make you a millionaire. It's like, there's no secrets, there's no keys, just get in and do it. And you know, so I don't blame him for feeling that way, but thanks for jumping in and having my back and saying that no, Josh doesn't have some fucking self-help guide course thing or whatever.
uh, yeah, it's funny that the delineation. I mean, you need to pay a lawyer, you need to pay an accountant, some courses are
Yeah.
fantastic. I've done courses and they're brilliant, but
Mm,
yeah, it's just kind of it is difficult to know where to get great information and
mm.
what to avoid. So
Yeah.
that's
Also, where it's appropriate to get information and assistance too, because I have had plenty of people who I've given a little bit of time to, and suddenly they think they can just, hey Josh, sorry, it's 10 o'clock. I just have this question for you. I'm like, dude, like, why? Don't call me at 10 o'clock and ask me a business question just out of the, that's what emails are for,
yeah,
so also appropriate, interaction with people you're trying to support as well is good. Yeah.
yeah, 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 definitely. You got to set boundaries and yeah.
Yeah.
And like for the mentor and the mentee, like you got to have a clear delineation of or
Yeah.
hygiene for how that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, love it, man. Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah, so if you want to find out more, go on the website, you can connect with Josh on LinkedIn. Um, and is there anything else online? I guess the main one is logmaster.com.au to find out more about
Yeah.
Logmaster.
And feel free to leave a 5-star review just based on what I've told you about the app. Those 5-star reviews on Google and the app stores, they're really helpful, So if you feel like being
That's
nice, just leave a review. It's helpful.
gold, gold. That's something we can do.
Cool.
Excellent, man. Well, thanks so much for your time. Hey, I really
You're
love the
welcome.
story. It's just so inspiring. I know, like, I've spoke to so many people since the last conversation, and yeah, it's just a really inspiring story. So, and I love it. And
Thank you.
you might be a Brisbane unicorn. Like,
I'm hoping for it.
yeah,
I'm going to
so,
try and do it from my home office,
yes,
Yeah. Take one tip away. You don't need to go and spend lots of money on, rent and offices and all that to have a successful business. It's about spending as little as possible to get the job done and making as much as you can. Like it's, yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
I guess that's changed now. So I mean, COVID changed a lot of things, right? So before
mm,
COVID, like there was still like if you wanted to have a real meeting, you had to meet in person or fly to Sydney or whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I mean, is that true now from your
yeah.
experience?
We started the business during COVID. I set up all these partnerships during COVID. It's all video calls. Um, I mean, I work from my home office. I take my kid to school and pick him up from school every day. It doesn't. I make sure that it doesn't, you know, cause a problem for the business. Um, Majority of deals that we do are done through video calls and video training and phone calls. I mean, every now and then I'll get a transport owner who wants to shake hands before he agrees to go ahead, and that's fair enough. Like if you're signing over 100 trucks to a compliance platform and you're an old school bloke, you want to see, is this guy going to show up for me and shake my hand and, chat to
Mhm.
me? I'll do it. Like, just to get out of the house is nice every now and then. But, 99% of our business is done with blokes sitting in their home offices talking on video calls and getting it done, answering the support calls when they come through. We don't need to have a, fancy office with meeting spaces because for the end user, it's a pain in the ass for them to get out of their business place and come to mine. And, I just, I'm about efficiency as well. Like, I've had so many people call up and go, I've got the perfect commercial space in Brisbane for you. I say, I don't want it. I don't want to have to drive an hour in the morning and then to drive an hour back. I could do 4 meetings in that time. Like, I'm not doing it. So, yeah. I know some businesses you need to have bricks and mortar presence and like all of that sort of thing, but
Mhm.
in the digital age and for SaaS, you really don't need it. You need a webcam. That's it.
Yep. So
Yeah.
what then? So if that's not important, and you've already answered this, but so what are the critical? What do you value, which is critical for success? Then,
Customer service, number
okay,
one. You got to answer the phone if someone needs you, right? You got
okay,
to answer the phone. Um, Transparency is really important. So if someone calls you and shows you something that they're having a problem with, doesn't matter if it's a bug or if it's them not doing the right thing, it's still an issue. So, as a business owner, it's your job to inform the person on how to get the most out of the product and make it easy for them. So, it may not be a bug, but it's still a problem that you need to fix for the next guy so they don't, do that misstep as well. So, I guess if we're going in order, customer service, transparency, um, product integrity. Product, you can't just put out a crap product that people have a bad experience with because you will get no referrals. So yeah, top three. Yeah, that's what it would be. Service, proper old-fashioned. G'day, Dave. How you doing? How can I help you? Sure. How was your weekend? All of that sort of stuff. Like you need to treat one single solo operator the same as you would treat the CEO of Toll if he calls you. Like you got to give that love to the customers. So
hmm
yeah, customer service number one. Number two, transparency. So being open and honest about what you're doing, what your messaging is, what your value propositions are, and sticking to them and believing in them. And then the third one is that solidity of product. The product's got to be solid, well made, and easy to use. That's the top three. Marketing's really important as well, and making sure you put it in front of the right people. But those three, top three for sure.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's powerful. And then because you value those things, you don't have to value having the office and appearing like you do those
yeah.
things, as long as you do those things.
Yeah, you do that. You do those things for real. Um, if someone says, "We fly out and shake my hand," yeah, sure, I will. I'm traveling from blah blah blah, and it's a big thing. But I'll book meetings around that if I have to. But if someone's here close by in Brisbane, and they want me to go out and train a group of their drivers, I love doing that. Like to actually go out and I went to a huge concrete location in Brisbane last week. It was a major operation, like with the big stacks and everything. And it was just really cool to be on site there and see how it's all done and, you know, um, show those guys how their compliance could look. And it's always great to go out on site for people, but I'd definitely much rather go and be on site with a business and be in their environment than ask someone to come to a swanky office in the city that you're just forking out money for hand over fist. Yeah.
Where? Yep,
Yeah.
yep, that's so cool. Thanks, man.
No
I really
worries. It's always
appreciate
a pleasure to talk to you. I
it.
forget that we're on a podcast and recording. It's just feel like I'm talking to Adam right now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I get like so interested in it, like hearing all the details, and I get all excited. Man, I can't believe, like, the next time we're doing a podcast, you might be in Brazil or Malaysia or something. Like it'll be.
yeah, that'll be fun. I'll be trying to learn Portuguese or
Oh
something.
yeah, obrigado. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know nothing. Yeah, we'll see.
Oh,
We'll see
no.
how we go.
Uh, it's so cool, man. Well, look, yeah, I can't wait to hear the
Thanks.
next update down the track. And well done,
Yeah,
man. And if there's
thank you.
anything we can do in business advice, stay in touch, and hopefully we can
Yeah,
help you out with some reviews uh, and
yeah, for sure.
and but that's so great, man. Love it,
Cool.
and also the mentoring thing. I look forward to seeing how that rolls out in the future, and to seeing like the second generation of Logmaster. Whatever they how they what they learn, and from being
Yeah,
inspired from hearing your story, and like that's even in 10 years there might be new ventures that haven't even been dreamed of at the moment. So that kind of
yeah.
is really
That's going to be
exciting.
so much fun. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Adam. I appreciate the time. I'll talk to you again real soon.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Business
Have a good one.
Advice Crew. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Business Advice Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.